Okay, thank you everyone for your attention. I hope it is a good session that you had. Sorry for the technical disturbance in the beginning. I'm not a very technical person, so yes, but glad that we got it sorted. And now we're going to look at some questions. Let's see. Okay, there's a question. On top of having a speech therapist to equip my child with strategies, how, as parents, can we help a child who might have language processing issues, especially in the aspect of speaking and writing her thoughts out? Yes, so we'll have Melissa answer that first question.
Yeah, thank you for your question. In terms of processing, we can start, like you as the parent can start, help and support the child by combining pictures and written language and spoken language. I think it is important for children who have difficulties with processing, with understanding what they are hearing in terms of language, to have a few different supports. So if you are maybe reading a story to the child, you can have a picture there and you can write some keywords down and you can ask some of those blanks level questions that can specifically zoom into like some of the vocabulary items, like what is this or who is this and what are they doing, to combine more than one aspect to help your child understand. Because usually if we speak, the child only listens, and that may be very hard for them if they have difficulties with processing, if they only have to listen and try to make sense of what we are saying. But if we include help, if we include support like a picture or a few written cues for specific vocabulary, that can support them with their understanding and processing. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, so we try to use different ways to support the processing. And when a child comes to our therapy sessions, we will use different strategies and then we'll share these strategies with parents. So parents usually can follow it up at home. And we also give homework so that parents can try those strategies. Yeah, so usually we will teach the parents how to do it so that they can do it every day instead of just coming to us and practice those strategies once a week for an hour, which is definitely not enough. And it's not going to help them with all their different school subjects that they have in primary school. Yeah. Good. Okay, next question. Does summer therapy services offer therapy online and also to non-native learners in other countries? Yes, we do have therapy online, and we do have students, we have kids from overseas and speaking in different language. So we'll have contacts from different countries to see how we can best help with the language development in those non-English speaking countries. So Melissa, maybe you can share one of your kids who is in Myanmar, and we are doing language therapy in Myanmar and how you go about doing that.
Yeah, so this is an online session once a week. So this client, I work with him on speech clarity and also on language, and we also do some oral motor work. So of course, the online session depends on the child's child's age and the specific things we need to work on. So for example, this boy is 4 years old, so he needs a teacher there, a helper there who can help with the session. So we conduct the session. I would explain to the teacher there how to work with him and what to do, and specifically for the oral motor exercises, she would do it with them and I would give some comments. And then for myself, so since the boy is Burmese speaking, my Burmese, I can speak a little bit of Burmese, but not good enough to do the whole session in Burmese. But then I can understand and give the teacher there some of the language, the sentences that the boy needs to practice, or the words that the boy needs to practice for speech clarity. And me and the teacher can work together to find the correct kind of Burmese word that the boy needs to practice, or how the sentence structure will look like for this boy to practice. And now we are also practicing stories, like what I shared earlier. We practice the sequence of the stories. And so if it's an online session for this boy, and there's someone present who can help conduct the session with my feedback on the side, I can work together with the person, especially if it's in a language that I don't speak very well, that there's someone that we can work together on both sides of the screen.
Yeah, so like Melissa was sharing about the narrative, the storytelling, we actually, before the sessions, we will send the pictures to the families, and then they'll print it out and get them ready. And for example, if we are teaching a sentence structure of subject, verb, object, we would actually ask the teacher there, is that the grammar structure that you all usually have? And we realized that in Burmese, that's not the case. So usually they will have their verb ahead of the object. Yeah. And then we'll start to notice the style, the syntax, the grammar. And then we're like, okay, for future references, we would always check in with the teacher, how it should be said. Yeah. And also other grammar markers. That's how we actually do it in their language. Yeah. We also have different contexts like friends, professionals that I work with personally in those countries, especially for like Indonesia. I have kids doing therapy in Bahasa Indonesia as well. So with the teachers, they will help us translate and modify it into Bahasa, and teach the children in terms of the language part. Yeah. So that is what non-native learners do in other countries. Yes, let me see. There's another question. My child is doing well, has been doing well in P1 and P2. However, he seems to have difficulties in P3. Is language a reason for his difficulties? Yeah, we have Melissa to answer that.
Yeah, thanks for that question also. It is specifically as the child progresses in the primary school, and once he comes to P3, and then when he has to read longer texts, the subjects in the school has more difficult vocabulary, the sentences may become longer, then all of a sudden we may see that the child have difficulties in understanding what he is reading. So in P1 and 2, where they are starting to read, learn how to read, the words that they are reading are short, the sentences are short, and the focus is on learning how to read, how to decode the words, and to actually read. The language understanding may not come out so clearly, but once the child move on to P3, and all of a sudden they have to read long stories or more difficult reading, then we may see, okay, is it, since we know that the child can read, like he can read the words, but now maybe he does not understand what he is reading. Yeah, and that is where we would really like to support children, so that we can support them in their learning in school as well. We want to support their language understanding as they move on to P3 and beyond.
Yeah, so when you think about it, when a child goes to P3, they have other subjects besides like English and math. And even their math, they start to do like problem sums. So I think the language demands in those areas will definitely be much more. So not only do we have to look at whether the child has the vocabulary to understand concepts, mathematical concepts in language forms, things like more, longer, how much do I have left? You know, do they have the idea that, oh, left means remaining? It doesn't mean it's left and right, that left. Yeah. And then once they get that understanding, they must know what information is important to draw out those information, and then what do they do to manipulate that information to actually calculate out the sums and find the answer. So when just look at math itself, we are not looking just at addition or subtraction or division, those mathematical concepts, but also the language part comes in. You know, yeah, for science it's the same. Like, it's a new subject, and then there are very different topics that the child would have seen in their daily lives, heard of in their daily lives, you know. So they have to things like space, plants, things like osmosis, photosynthesis. These are difficult vocabulary words. So do the child has that ability, that language, and the capacity to learn all these new words within a very short span of time? You know, so there's a big gap between P1, P2, and 3. So I think that may be one of the reasons why, and that's from my personal experience as well. So thank you, Melissa. Yes. So another question that we have is, how can I help my child improve his reading? Okay.
Yeah, that is quite a broad question. Yeah, if we only think of improving reading in terms of reading the actual word, know what is the letter, yeah, I think we can refer to the previous webinar where Jane was talking about the actual learning how to read. I think we'll post it on YouTube after this.
I'll try to do that, but anything with IT stuff. So yes, but you still can access the webinar for 2 days after today. Yeah.
Good. Yes.
So it still be on the Zoom link. Yes.
Yeah. So then, if we also think of improving reading in terms of understanding what we actually read, that would be another part of reading that we can help to support the child. Yeah, and if parents are thinking how can they support their child in reading, specifically in terms of understanding what they're reading, one of the things that you can do is, if we refer back to those blanks level questions, we can, if you have a little storybook with pictures, you can ask the child specific questions about the story, about the picture, like who is here and what is the person doing, and maybe questions about the specifics of the picture, like what is this, or how does the boy feel, like all those questions that we talked about, we can ask. Like say, if you go through a storybook, for each page, and if there's a picture, can ask the child specific questions to make sure that for the details of the story, he understands each part of the story. And then, of course, you will go through the story much slower than just reading through a story, but it will really support the child's understanding of the story. And then also, especially if they read themselves, the child can read the text of the story himself, but you can still support the child by, after he reads the one page, then you can ask those specific questions, like what is the boy doing, where is he, how is he feeling, what is he going to do next. And then once you see that the child, oh, I think he understands this page, we can move on to the next page. And then, of course, that same book or story can be read a few times to really support his understanding of what he is reading.
Yeah, I really enjoy using the blanks level with my kids. Yeah, and I always share that strategy with parents as well. So it's really quite a straightforward approach to use. You just try to go through the stages of the questions. Yeah, but one thing to note that you don't ask so many questions that the child feel like it's an exam, you know. He's like, why do you bombard me with questions and I don't know the answer? So we have to be careful about that, because if the child has difficulty reading and understanding what they read, it's already a stress to them when they see a text or a book. So don't bombard them with 1,000 questions. You may ask them a question and provide them with the answer.
Yeah, it can be like almost like a fun discussion in a way. Definitely not like a lot of questions, but yes, ask the question, maybe also provide the answer to really help the child to still that it can remain a fun activity. Because reading is supposed to be a fun activity, to read fun stories, to get new knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, another thing I really enjoy also is like when the child read about certain topic, is to Google videos on YouTube, you know, you find something related. So that is a multi-modal way of learning the topic and understanding what he reads. All right, let me see if there's any more questions. So time is up too. Okay, looks like we are good on the questions. Okay, yay! Thank you, Melissa, for your sharing.